in Sioux Falls, at Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Wednesday, I ran a 17-hour day. Probably 15 of it was driving just to get out of the heat down around Little Rock. I did dock the trailer. I think I mentioned that yesterday. But when I got up here, I was really tired. About 1 o'clock, I pulled into a place called Tower Campground. Nice little park. Not a lot of amenities, but it does have a bathhouse. And then, surprisingly, right after I set up, didn't even take a shower or anything. Ate lunch, fell asleep about 2:30, got up at 8 o'clock, walked the dog and fed him, had a salad, back to bed, got up at 7 this morning. So, I was really tired, man. Either that or that temazepam, after you don't take it, it really like knocks you out, makes you gorky. So, today's plan is I'm going to go to Sioux Falls after I take a shower, take a look around there and maybe make a video. And then I'm headed out to a place called Fort Sioux, and no, Fort Pierce is where I'm headed. Basically, there's a couple of Sioux reservations around there. I think it's north, and there's one on the way between here and there. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking for a campground or a state park, and they have some really good, nice state parks here. But I'm looking for a place that I can make as a base, and then, you know, take my 150-mile trips from there, and basically try to understand about the history of the Sioux Indians. So that's what my plan is. In South Dakota, I'm probably going to spend at least a couple of weeks bumping around, and then it's on to Wyoming. And that's basically the plan.
These are the remains of the Queen Bee Mill, which was completed in 1881. It was capable of producing 1,200 barrels of flour a day, which was about 4 times the typical flour plant at the time. It had a 7-story building that had the milling machinery in it, and it had a 100,000 bushel grain elevator. So basically it needed a lot of reliable water supply, but the problem was there wasn't enough wheat and there wasn't enough water, so it closed about 2 years after it opened. And then it burned in 1956 and it was razed, and these are the remains.
This is the view from the catwalk. Picking up a lot of mist because the wind is coming right off the falls. And you can see the old mill up there on the hill. This is the view from the other side of the catwalk. Really get an idea of the scale of this by looking at the people that are walking over there. And there's the cafe and the bridge. I'm kind of gobsmacked because I didn't realize until I got here, there's the main fall. But look at the whitewater upstream. I mean, it starts, I don't know, 300 yards from the main fall. We are officially going to get rained out. So I'm at the top end now. I could go out on those rocks and we could see that, but I got to get closer to the van because I just saw lightning and he don't like lightning. And I don't want them to be a mess for the rest of the day. I'm pretty sure we have to run through that rain to get out of here. Heading over to Fort Pierre next. But this was well worth the time stopping and looking at it. We got done rained out. So we had to run to the gift shop, which was a good thing. I got myself a little magnet. So we weathered the front end of the storm, which was like silver dollar size drops. Now we're headed back to the van and we're going to head on out of here. I'm sure there's much more to see in Sioux Falls, but I want to get out toward the middle of the state. They have a lot of really nice state parks in South Dakota, and I've booked into one for tomorrow night, and I want to check out the Sioux Indian reservations and the crafts and try to understand a little bit of their history. Unfortunately, that rain is coming from the west, so we're going to get to run through it. Deacon is holding up okay. He hates the rain. But that's it for, they call it Falls Park in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And I'm really glad I made the time to come by. Hope I gave you enough information so you can make an informed decision about whether you want to visit. And just one last look before we go. And I'll see you out there.